Hello, Wild Nettle family, and yes, online community. I'm really excited to chat tonight, just really authentically and vulnerably with my dear Wild Nettle tribe member Kiana about intuitive health and really living in our bodies. So I'm just going to pin our chat. I want this to be a really authentic conversation, as if we're all sitting around a circle in a tent, as women, as men, as people, sharing about our journey of loving our bodies again and trusting our bodies, and particularly the trials and tribulations that many of us go through to come into a place of genuinely feeling good and happy and in love with our bodies and their natural cyclical nature. So I'm just pinning the comment and inviting Kiana to come and join us. Let me see, request to join. And I also want to share before we get into it that Kiana and I, hi Celeste, hi Alexandra, hi Jess, hi Katie. Oh, it's so good to see my girlfriends' faces on here and their names. Hi Kiki.
Hi.
Wow, you look
I'm very
like
golden.
classic, like you've come out of a classic film. You just
Oh,
look amazing, even the lighting.
it's the best lighting I can get for when it's going to get dark. So this is just the filter I naturally have.
Amazing. No, you look gorgeous.
But I love what you were saying about having an authentic chat. That's also really what I want to do right now. And I was just taking a moment before to be like, okay, I'm going to speak truthfully and honestly and just, yeah, from the heart. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's what I really love about you, Kiana. And for those who don't know, Kiana and I work together to make Wild Nettle what it is. And I really felt such a shared experience with you when I got to know your story, particularly with modeling and with our weight and with our desire to really rewild and remember what it means to just be a woman, not an object of display and beauty and um, product, and just the kind of remembering and re-embodying and like what it really takes. Because I think oftentimes people will look at us and be like, oh, what do they know, like they're so pretty, or they've like got it all together, like their bodies are fine. And it's really not always what it appears on the outside. And so I think it's
mm.
important to just speak to that.
Yes, definitely. And before we started working together, I also followed you for a while, and I've always resonated with your story. And that's why it's so amazing that we can work together now, especially with Wild Nettle, because I feel Wild Nettle is really spreading that message of like just radical self-love, and just loving yourself as you are, just as the wild weeds are imperfect and growing everywhere and finding their way through the cracks. Like that's what real beauty is, and that's what real health is just, yeah, it's just being who you are.
Yeah, and resilience, and remembering that actually like that rebellion against an idea of beauty or an idea of health is like
Mm.
how we really find our uniqueness, how we really um yeah thrive ultimately.
Yeah.
So I was also saying, just as a side note for those on our profile around our workshop, which also kind of speaks to what we're speaking about tonight, about change and fluctuations in weight and fluctuations in like even what you eat, this ability to be able to pivot. And we've actually decided to postpone our latest workshop because we were just honestly looking at the numbers and the timeline, and it just wasn't fitting. And I was like, you know what, we need to pivot how we market this brand, how we call people in. Maybe we need to actually invite a bigger event and collaborate. Like my big thing now is I'm kind of tired of hosting events alone. I'd really like to collaborate. So just so you know, the spring reset is now going to become a January like day event, but we will share more in the future.
Yeah,
Tonight,
it's going to be amazing.
yeah, tonight is really just a an opportunity for Keeks and I to, yeah, speak about our journey. And I'd like to actually ask you, in particular, when you remember um, how the distortion happened, like when you started restricting or changing your relationship to food or wanting to be something different to what you naturally were.
Hmm. Yes. So there's two crucial moments. Ooh, I can't wait to get into this. um, the first was I was about 14 and I'd won this modeling competition. So like I went to Durban and, there were about 14 of us girls. And the next day we were supposed to walk on the catwalk in bikinis. I mean, we were really young. 14 is young to show that much of your body. Looking back, I realized, like on display. It was like in a shopping mall as well, very public space. And I just got the idea that I started to realize that, oh, my tummy feels a bit big. And I remember thinking, well, maybe if I just don't eat today, then my tummy can be really flat so that, it's going to look flat. It's going to look like all the other models and all the other images that I had of women, supposedly the beautiful woman type with flat stomach. And so that's really the first experience that I had of restricting my food. That whole day I didn't eat. I felt incredibly lightheaded, but almost euphoric in a way. And that began that addiction with this feeling of lightness, because it was like, I walked down that catwalk and I felt, I felt good about myself because I felt like I was that image of what a woman should be. And so it started that addiction with I wanted to get back to that all the time. And so whenever I ate food, like a normal person needs to eat food, that heaviness, I was like, I don't like this feeling of heaviness, this like heaviness, which now to me is being embodied, being in my body, feeling grounded. I wanted to get away from that. So that was that one pivotal moment. And the second one was when I was 16 and my first love, he broke up with me. And I thought, okay, the way I'm going to get back at him is to be really beautiful and to be perfect. Which, it's this like, I don't know what type of culture it is, but it's like you want to be better than, he left you, well, I thought he left me because there was something wrong with me. And so I need to like prove myself now. I need to be better. I need to be thinner. I need to be more beautiful, more desirable. And again, the image that was shown to me, how to be more beautiful, how to be more desirable, is to be thinner, to be really toned, to be really tight, to restrict, essentially. So while like these events in my life triggered my restriction, I realized looking back, it started because of the image that I had of what a woman should be. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I resonate a lot, thinking back on like when my restrictive eating patterns happened, and really just like the impact of collective beliefs around beauty and the impact of media ultimately, because mine all came from the Vogues that I saw my mom reading and the W magazines and the celebrities. And even today, like I don't often do this, but I sometimes go on a rabbit hole and I went through all the like latest fashion week images and I still see this perpetuating of like anorexia, basically, because it is anorexia.
Mm.
Like a lot of the women who are top fashion models are still like starving themselves behind the scenes, and it's just insane that we live in this reality, and how to become strong enough and loving enough of yourself to shift that. And I feel like
Mm.
this is such a process of unraveling our belief system around our bodies. And I know for me, like I even hate to admit it, but it actually was in a relationship with somebody who really loves my like soft parts and my cellulite, and like seeing myself through the gaze of somebody who genuinely loved my body in this way like helped me to kind of really see myself differently, because I realize now, and I think a lot of people have this experience where they actually aren't able to see their own body. Like I think body
Yeah.
dysmorphia and like how we see ourselves as women is a whole topic like that also needs to be understood, that we've only ever seen ourselves through the lens of the male gaze of like, how is somebody looking at me? Like I don't actually know what I look like through my own eyes, because my eyes have just been
Mm.
like totally yeah, like warped. So yeah, how did you begin to gently move yourself into like a loving relationship with food and with seeing your body?
So first on the journey of restricting, because it was a really long journey for me. You know, like I said, it started at 14, but then it started a lot as anorexia, so it was just restricting food content, you know, like food amount. Um, and with that came excessive exercising. Um, and then when I really got into yoga and I got into the spiritual community is such a broad term, but you know, onto some kind of spiritual path. Um, Surprisingly, that actually perpetuated it, because there came all of these cleanses, and it was like, try this diet, it's going to make you perfect, and try this cleanse, you're going to be feeling like fabulous, and you know, summer body and all of that. Or you know, in terms of yoga and the yogic path, a very strict one, I got so obsessed with it that I had to do like 2, 3 hours of yoga a day and eat very small amounts of food, and just because that's what I thought to be spiritual is, like that's what being spiritual is again going back to this lightness, not being in the body, trying to transcend the body.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I think in the ancient way of understanding it is a very beautiful thing, but the way we understand it now, I feel like it's so focused on like getting out of the body and getting up into, I don't know, the ether, and with that comes the lightness, like way less, and you know, meditate more, and yeah. So that it was just such a long, just such a long path. And after that, sorry, I'm just giving some backstory. After that came uh, binge eating for me, which was probably just one of the most difficult times of this like restrictive path, because it is still restricting. Because with binge eating, you know, you like there is a time where you eat a lot of food, but the rest of the time you're restricting. You know, during that time, I was trying lots of diets and like trying to find something that was going to make me healthy, and that's something that I could really stick to. But then it was, none of these were sustainable, because you know, a lot of these cleanses and diets just are not sustainable. Actually, pretty much most of them. um, Especially like a lot of the, I feel like the spiritual and yogic diets that are recommended. I mean, you can live like that when you're in an ashram. You know, I lived like that when I was in an ashram in India, but then take that back to normal life and it's just not sustainable. And so then you feel so guilty for not being able to sustain that. And so that binge cycle starts with that, because you're like, you're trying, but then you feel guilty, and then you eat so much because you're like, well, I already failed at this, so I'm just going to stuff my face, and tomorrow I'll try again.
Mhm.
And so the binge eating
Yeah.
was really the final straw for me, because I realized I was just like, something wasn't working. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, before I go on to how I've healed, I'm curious to hear your journey with like in the
Mm.
spiritual community and also with binging and things.
Yes, thank you actually for mentioning that progression, because it really is like these stages of like awakening in some way. And I definitely got caught in the spiritual, it felt like a really good facade for my eating, my bad eating habits, like my orthorexia ultimately. And it was like the perfect way to say no to food and to, I remember I was so obsessed with like only having smoothies and telling my family like, you know, I'm on this really healthy cleanse and I'm really healthy and you're not healthy because you guys are eating meat and you're eating butter. And I was just able to like really present myself as this righteous yogi and get away from eating any of like the Christmas dinner or the foods that were really delicious and really nourishing and made with so much love. And I just punished myself in this kind of way of thinking to be, if I punish myself, I'm in some ways better than, and I'm closer to God and I'm closer to enlightenment or whatever. And I really think that this is like the crux of the issues with the spiritual community, or our like embedded dogma that I think religion and even like capitalism, patriarchy, like embedded into these maybe beautiful scriptures as a way to firstly separate us from our body, because like you said, when we meditate, when we take plant medicine, when we don't eat, we reach these stages of euphoria. But ultimately, it's your body starving and being like, "Yo, I'm hungry and I'm starting to get lightheaded because I don't have any food," and like sending all these hormones. Um, but what that also does is it makes you quite weak, and it makes you also reliant on the dogma, reliant on the guru, reliant on the kind of like practice to stay in it. And it's this belief that somehow God is outside of you, like God is out there or in that shaman or in that plant. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you're, rather than realizing like me eating and nourishing my body, which is God, it's like that's why I love the tantric path and I love the wise woman way. The more we love ourselves and believe ourselves to be God, the greater we feed and care and ground. And also that creates like this deeper connection with the earth, literally, because now you're in your
Mm.
body, now you're actually able to look around you and go, wow, I need to take care of this planet. Like, I can't escape it into another dimension. I can't 5D my way out of the global climate crisis. Like, that's, that's
Yeah.
not really going to save anyone. Like, the earth down here is saying, can you pay attention? Can you care
Mm.
for me? So, yeah.
Yeah, I've teamed myself out of it. Yeah, it's really true. And on your points, I realized that I was also really looking for answers from about my body from everybody else but me. You know, I was looking just for a cleanse, for a diet, anything like somebody's knowledge, somebody's wisdom that was going to save me from myself. And I have so much compassion for that part of me. I think it's so important to say that these journeys are journeys for a reason. You know, all the things that I learned through those phases, I realize were important to me now. Just because it was my journey and I can't change it. But yeah, this like desperate seeking outside of myself for the answers to my own body. It just no one else was going to be able to tell me what I needed, and I realize that now. but it's so difficult to come to that point, and that's why I'm saying I have so much compassion for everybody wherever you are on your journey with your body. You know, if you've been looking for the answers outside of yourself, that's okay, but I promise that they are not there, you know? Um, yeah, that's just a
Yeah.
side note.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. It comes back to that kind of radical responsibility and moving away from really like we've all been indoctrinated to rely on the system, religion, government, you know, parents, partners, putting all our power in the hands of others, and also not trusting our body. I think a big one that we both have been looking at is like looking at illness or looking at even the reason behind the disassociation and the disordered eating. Like, what was actually going on there? What was my body trying to tell me? Why did it desire this feeling of euphoria? Why was that more comfortable than being physically embodied as a woman? And for me, it was like, because of that objectification, because being in my body, I felt the grossness of being a young teenager, like walking down a catwalk and being glared at by like old men, or, you know, just being sexualized so young, or thinking I need to perform in a certain way and it not feeling authentic. And so it was much easier to take drugs and then perform, because then I could kind of be this like, you know, doll. And yeah, it's like eventually, at least for me, my body was like, okay, enough. You know, at 21, I had a total shutdown, and I've shared that before, where I had no choice but to radically change my habits. And I'm just so grateful I had teachers like radical bitches like Susan Weed, who were like, "What are you doing? Like, please eat some bone broth and please enjoy the bread and the butter, and come back to basics." And I think that's also where we connected, and I really saw that you understood her wisdom, and you were able to um, realize like, oof, there's something quite unique in what this woman, this wise woman, is sharing. Um, and yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and incredibly simple at the same time. You know, that
mm,
the spiral path, it's not it's not like the straight line to the destination of perfect health. It's like there is, as you said to me the other day, there is no such thing as perfect balance. Like balance is unattainable. We move, especially on the topic of health, you know, I move between eating lots of greens the one day to eating ice cream and things the other day, and it's just constant change, but it works, and it finds, you know, I always find my way back to the things that my body desires because I'm listening to what my body is telling me. Um, and so it's that trust, like you said, that trust that, you know, your body will not lead you astray. I think that's what I used to think so much, that I need to control my body. I need to control my impulses. Why do I have this desire to eat all this food? It's so bad of me, you know, like bad me. But that's not at all what was going on. My body was being incredibly intelligent when I was binge eating. It was saying, hello, we don't know when we're going to get our food again. So, okay, you're eating something now. We're going to make sure you eat everything just in case you restrict for the whole day tomorrow, you know?
mm,
And so that trust is just so interlinked with, yeah, trusting your body's wisdom, and
mm.
not feeling like it's fooling you, because it isn't.
Yeah, wow, wow. And I actually just had like a thought that, yeah, it's totally that. We don't trust our bodies. We don't trust these wild, primal, hungry women inside of us that are just like might devour a whole fucking pig if she can, and like put her in a cage, contain her, keep her, you know, like that's what we do to nature. That's what we do to like the indigenous. That's what we do to anything that is free. And we basically, this is like, it makes total sense. I always say this, like, women were the first to be colonized. We were internally colonized by our own people, like by our own man. And that's like why the witch hunts and the burning and the trials was a way to kind of like control and annihilate any of that attempt to be yeah, to be so connected to the land, to be so good at healing yourself, at being wise in your body and in your body's needs, and to, yeah, to have that like peace in about how we ourselves control ourselves as a result of that, and have to kind of like decolonize our minds and our ways of treating our own being first and foremost, I think. um, yeah, particularly
Yes.
like as our own archetype, as like, you know, white woman or European ancestral woman, because it is particularly something of the West, I think, that's perpetuated this smallness, thinness, disappearing body. Um,
Yeah, and that, sorry, on that wildness note, I think that was a lot of what I was trying to avoid when I was restricting. You know, because the restriction of food actually seeped into so many other areas of my life. It seeped into restriction of the expression of my sexuality and the expression of my creativity, um, and really every area that was trying to be Kiana. Like, um, and wait, I just lost my train of thought now.
mm, mm,
But
mm, mm.
you know what I mean?
Totally, the feminine, like the true essence of what it means to be like in flow with your creative feminine expression, which is your artistry, which is your, like, it's the intuition. It's like doing something because it feels good in that moment, expressing my dance because it's true, eating that delicious meal because it's what I desire in this moment, having the energy to like face the day and really, yeah, bring all of me. It's a constriction, it's a containment, totally. And oh,
Yes. And
like,
what I wanted to say was, sorry, also the wildness about containing the actual the body, you know, this feeling of breasts moving on my own body used to freak me out. Um, and just the feeling of like fat moving on my body used to freak me out just because I was so disconnected from my own form. And I celebrate that now. You know, I completely celebrate that, but it used to just be something I was so afraid of. And that was really that containment of that wildness, of that essence, which is the body, which is earth, because everything is fat and skin and just
hair.
dirt, you know?
Yes,
And I
I
was so afraid of that. I really wanted to run away from that. And that again goes to the ideal image of a woman. And the same for men, you know, it's, you know, to be toned and to be strong and to just have all those muscles and to be tight and put together.
mm,
It's not
mm,
realistic. And it's an incredible pressure to have in your daily life. And it, like I said, it restricts all of you. It restricts all of your expression because when you spend so much time thinking about how to contain yourself and contain your body, you never get to feel who you really are and get to show the world who you really are.
mm, mm. Yeah, completely, completely. And I was just thinking um about the hair comment and like how that also linked to it, and our conversation around when we were going to Europe, and like how we've both like let our hair grow. And I recently, the other night, had a friend ask me like, just genuinely like, can you just explain to me like why you don't shave your armpits? Like, she genuinely was just like, I just want to understand, is it political, like what is the reason? And it was interesting to me because I was like, yeah, let me tune in. And it was this process for me of like, what would it feel like just the physical experience of like having hair. And like you say, when you have fat and you start to feel like your breasts moving or you feel weight on yourself, like what would it feel like to be hairy? And can I actually like allow this wildness to happen in my body? And for me, as like a provoking woman. I just loved the experience of other people seeing my hair and being like, and their reactions, like especially because I was still in my agency at the time and I was like modeling and going to castings and like putting this beautiful dress on with my hairy armpits. It certainly like got to a point where it like no longer was going to work because, you know, designers have an idea of what their models should look like. But yeah, what was your journey with hair as well, and your kind of like line around not shaving even when you went to Europe and stuff?
Yeah, the hair journey has been, it's really been difficult, but also incredibly easy. So, you know, I just laugh when your friend asks you like, why? It's funny because to me there's no reason why. It just grows out of my body. Why does there need to be a reason? What's the political message? I don't know, but I think, you know, it has become a political message. Like, I don't know. I think some people wear it like a statement, but to me, it's just I'm just letting my body be as it naturally is. So there's no, yeah, there's no reason behind it other than it's just me, you know. Um,
Love that.
but it's still, you know, if I'm thinking honestly, it's still not something I'm 100% comfortable about in public. And that just reveals to me how deeply ingrained it is that hair is like dirty and not sexy. Because I feel beautiful on my own. I've come to a place where I feel really beautiful on my own in my with all my leg hair and my armpit hair and everything. But I'm still working with when I'm, you know, in a public space. I'm worried how people are going to react to me sometimes, you know, if I'm feeling more sensitive that day or something. I'm like, oh, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. But it's so ridiculous because why would hair step on anyone's toes? But it does. I've made some people really uncomfortable. And I think I also just want to speak about being uncomfortable in it because it's not that I have let all my hair grow out because it's like how I feel fabulous. It's because it's how my body naturally is, and I'm done trying to change it and trying to just do what I'm told with that, you know? But it's incredible unlearning process. And
Yeah.
it will probably take a few more years for me.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Like I love my armpit hair for some reason. I find it really kinky and sexy. But my leg hair, just like that I struggle with because when I wear certain dresses, it's like my vision just really struggles to see my legs hairy in the dress. And I was
Mm.
laughing the other day because I was at Sea Point and I really let my um pubic hair just go wild. And I was wearing a costume, and it's like it's really quite something. Like it's an animal, and and I was thinking like, wow, these people in Sea Point really are actually quite terrified. Like they especially even children. It's just like, oh my God, like there's like a costume with
There's
hair
something
around.
about coming on your costume.
And it's just crazy that that's not, yeah, as you say, like that's actually not normal when like we should be asking again, like, why are we still shaving? Why are we still perpetuating this belief of like an idea of beauty? Um, but kind of linking us
Mm.
back to weight, I really want to talk to like how we've now come to a comfortable place with our bodies and the changes of our bodies, like the hairiness, the fat, the like sometimes I lose weight and I actually get really anxious now when I lose weight because I feel like judged. I feel how am I how can I like talk about good health and then look skinny? Like, why am I losing weight? And it's because I'm maybe not like I'm too busy, I'm working, I'm stressed. But I also understand like there's just my body is like burning fat quickly. Like I just have that type of metabolism. But coming into this graceful place with the fluctuations, how do you, yeah, like trust the yourself now in your weight, and how do you yeah manage
Mm.
to Yeah.
Well, I think the first step, especially going from, if you're somebody who's been restricting in any way, or had any issues with food, the first step is to really let everything unravel. And it's it's difficult. I say this to a lot of people that I speak to. The process of moving from restricting to, living intuitively is not going to be beautiful. You're first going to have to let everything fall apart. So you're first going to have to let maybe yourself move into, some binge cycles, because that's what the body might do in response to you suddenly letting your body do what it needs. You also might gain extra weight and your hormones are probably going to be everywhere. And I think that's the first thing to say. I mean, that's just what I experienced. And I feel like it's such an important point, is that the move is not going to be easy, but it really is worth it. You first have to let your body find its own natural balance. And because you've restricted for so long, it's going to be out of whack for a little while. But you need to move through and trust that process, because your body will find equilibrium if you support it with good food, with infusions, with all the delicious things. And another really important point is the environment and the people that you surround yourself with. I've been able to embrace my body hair and embrace my womanness and just my body as it is, because I began to surround myself with other people who were already doing that. And I know that's not always an easy step, but I realized that was really pivotal to me learning to love my body, was looking around and seeing what environments am I putting myself in. Environments where you are, pressured to show up a certain way. I know not all of them can be changed, but where you do have power, with your friends and things like that, to really surround yourself with a group of friends who are healthy and loving themselves and just in that process as well.
Yeah.
Um, so those two I feel are important. I don't know if you want to add any to that before I go on.
Yeah, thank you. I really I just remembered now because I've been on quite a journey with my disordered eating, and I forgot that yes, for 2 or 3 years, and I even stopped modeling in that period because I just put on weight. Even if I tried to exercise, my body was just putting on weight. And you're so right. It goes through this period of swinging pendulum, and nothing you do, but you just have to kind of keep trusting and keep eating and keep being healthy, and listening to I just craved butter and peanut butter. I needed fat so badly, and I think it was also related
Yeah.
to my nervous system, because I was so adrenally fatigued, and I needed fat to kind of restore all of the stimulant addictions and drugs and partying that I'd done years before. And what's so beautiful, as you say, if you stick to it and you keep trusting, eventually that binge hunger begins to dissipate, and you actually start to meet your true physical equilibrium harmony, where suddenly I don't even remember how it happened, but my body just became my body, and it just
Yeah.
formed into the beautiful shape that it is now, which is pretty consistent. Obviously there's changes in my hormones depending on the month, but I
Mm.
really don't have to work hard. I don't have to exercise. I've come to this place of okay, this is it, in a way.
Yes. And I think that also connects to you being able to see your body truly for what it is. Because we were talking about that distortion when you're in that restrictive eating cycle and you're surrounding yourself with a lot of people who are trying to look a certain way, and you're reading a lot of media, looking at a lot of media that portrays women or men in a certain way. It completely distorts your view of yourself. And so now I can say I'm the same. I don't have to try that hard. Obviously, I still have to eat well and look after myself and move my body. But I think it comes with the fact that I also see my body for what it is now. There's a new appreciation, and so I can see it truthfully without the filter that I used to see it before, if that makes sense. Um, just because of surrounding myself with other people, going through the fluctuations and just trusting, and now being at a place where, like, oh wow, this is my body. I don't actually have to try mold it and sculpt it and force it into being something. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking even like it's actually funny in Europe. I sometimes still have this thing where I forget that I'm no longer like a size 8 or 10. Like I'm more towards a 12, 14. Like my hips, like I've really grown hips and I really love them. But it is so funny when you shift into a new body and your natural body and and like for me it's this like journey of like each time feeling like the changes and the new shape and like for me it's like this really relief that I can like meet any resistance, meet any fear and be like, wow, like I don't actually have to let this worry me and like I don't really have to like nobody's going to punish me because I have cellulite or because I'm not the size that I'm meant to be. So it's really liberating. Gosh, I have to say, like
Yeah.
not being in the modeling industry in that form anymore, like more in commercials is really great. And I wanted
Mm.
to just kind of end on this idea of like rituals and how that has supported you rather than, you know, detoxing or dieting or kind of these more quick fix type ways that we think health happens.
Mm. Yeah, the ritual to me, so much is a ritual. Um, and before I go so much into that, I was just thinking about how, like, a ritual for me can even be exercise. It can be
Mm,
drinking a warm tea in the morning. It can really just be anything that I decide to do with intention that day. Um, and what I realized with rituals, especially health rituals, self-care rituals, you know, like I just need to do what I desire that day. So every day is going to look different. And when it comes to moving my body, every day looks different. Some days I go out into nature. Some days, sometimes I really get into these random YouTube exercise things, which I love. Some days I do absolutely nothing. And the ritual is, I don't know, eating cake and like drinking lots of cacao. And so, yeah, to me, yeah, like I said, the ritual is doing anything with that intention. But I think the rituals that live throughout all, most of my days are eating food that tastes divine and that I love and that I want. Um, for me now, a ritual is, of course, drinking the wild weed infusions, which just, it's such a nice added ritual into my life. Obviously, then infusing it overnight and then drinking it throughout the day, just having, like you call them, the allies. They really are allies to me now because, you know, whether it's the nettle or the red clover, it's there and it's supporting me throughout the day with its minerals and its vitamins. Um, yeah, I'm trying to
mm.
think what other rituals I have. What are your rituals?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I love that you said like rituals change, and actually it's just making something meaningful for you in that moment that ultimately creates the ritual, makes it sacred. And the best way to put it is like truth in that moment, which could be a yoga class, which could be like sometimes the truth is I want to work out, I want to sweat, like I love lifting weights, I love being in the gym. Like I really want people to also know that just because I stopped restricting and over exercising, I still love being fit. I've like grown up in a very sporty family what feels very honest for me is working out, sweating, like feeling the resilience of my body, but testing like my body's like strength. You know, I think we also really want to, I particularly want to make it known that we don't move enough. So it's not just okay to like eat what you want and not move your body. Like we really need to move our bodies. We can't expect our bodies to love us and respond well if we don't physically move them, whether it's walking, whether it's, you know, yoga, whatever, swimming, because we're behind our desks so much in our phones. Yeah, so I love that. Like there are days, definitely on my period, I do not move my body. Like my exercise is actually to rest or receive a massage. Um, but yes, the ritual, actually the infusions, I was just thinking about it. Like I've now been on them for like almost 4 years. And I think there was something that happened when I started drinking infusions, which took away the starvation binge feeling a bit because of the rich absorbable minerals. And I've been speaking to like a doctor who works with women who have eating disorders and how to bring infusions in just to support that transition where you're now like finally receiving vitamins and minerals, and instead of like going into panic, because I remember there was these moments where I'd get food and I felt that panic of like, I'm so hungry, like I'm just gonna like scuffle it down, and this like moment of like fear when the meal came. And by drinking infusions, it kind of like dissipated that starvation and that like, yeah, anxiety even. And I could then meet my plate really authentically and be like, okay, yes, this is what I really want. This is what my body wants. I don't have to worry about overeating because I'm really satiated on a micronutrient level.
Wow, I didn't know that you were speaking to somebody like that. That would be such a perfect thing to bring the infusions to people who are struggling with eating disorders. Um,
Yeah.
and I did also want to say that the ritual is also following your cycle. Whether if you're a woman, it can be your menstrual cycle, but I also feel like if you're a man, it can be the seasons, because the cycles of life, we're not meant to show up like robots. We are just not the same every day. And so to me, the ritual is to know that the seasons and your own bodies are ever changing. I mean, it's just so apparent being a woman because every month you're shedding and every month you're going through all the 4 seasons. And I think that is the ritual of my life, is to honor the season that I'm in, to honor where I am in my cycle, and to act accordingly. You know, when I am exhausted, I rest. You know, when I can. I know that it's also, I don't want to say that everyone has a luxury to do what they want all the time, but you find these moments for yourself, and that is the ritual, to really find those moments for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's so true. Like the key to women's health is really cyclical living, like living by your cycles and resting when you need to rest during the bleed time. Because what that does on a physiological hormonal level is it restores your energy so that when the ovulation starts to come again, you have the energy to do that exercise. You have the energy to choose good foods. But if you're constantly pushing yourself beyond what is natural, you will then pay the price, and your body will also hold on to weight. So one of my like gym instructors at the time, she knew this, and she was like, "We never gym on your period because you actually will gain weight." Because you put your body under so much stress that the cortisol rises because you feel it, you're like exhausted. And so your body will then like hold on to fat. And then like
Yes.
next cycle, you know, you feel depleted. You actually can't, yeah, just process what needs to be processed, etc.
Yes. Makes total sense.
Awesome. Well, I feel
Yeah.
like we covered quite a lot. Thank you so much. And thanks to those who stayed on. I feel like there was a consistent group that were here, and We'd love to,
Mm.
please share your comments once we post this. It really helps with our new platform that's still brewing, to get any shares or any comments, about your experience, and yeah, any tips and questions. We're totally here for you.
Yes, bring the questions.
And thanks so much, Kiana.
Amazing.
You are, yeah, such a wise and caring soul, and I'm really grateful to be in this wild journey with you.
Yes, I feel exactly the same about you. Thank you so much for having me on. Haha, my first live.
Yes, was it your first live? Amazing.
Yes.
Oh, I love just popping a live cherry for a woman. Okay, lots of love.
Okay.
Bye.